It's your man Alex, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you my take on a high taper mullet self haircut. So let's get right into it. Now to get started with the first guideline, I'm going to be using my Glaker trimmers, which cost me probably around $20, and I'm putting in the first guideline going up just above my ear, creating kind of like a rainbow-like shape. Now going in for the second guideline, I'm using my Glaker clippers, using the lever open and going up half an inch from that previous guideline. Still, of course, keeping that rainbow-like shape. A really important tip you should follow is making sure when you're going in for each guideline that you're double checking your work, looking at both of the mirrors if you have the same mirror setup, and make sure your left side and the right side are equal on both sides so that one side isn't higher or lower than the other, so you don't end up having a lopsided haircut as a final result. So now we've got two guidelines in on your head. We've got the trimmer, which is number 1, and no guard lever open, which is number 2. To fade in the hard line that you are seeing, it's a 3-step process. So we're gonna go in with the clippers, lever halfway, that's 1, lever closed, that's 2, and trimmers, that's 3. So 3-step process. So with this fading step, all you're going to do is just flick out with the lever halfway. This is going to soften up the hard line, roughly 50%. Then once you feel like you've got both sides of your head about the same, you're gonna close the lever and then flick out again just a little bit beneath where you previously were flicking out, right at the hard line, and that should remove about 90% of the hard line. If you still see a little bit of a hard line, you can go back to the trimmers and then you can just use the corners or the flick out motion, and that should get rid of 100% of the hard line. Now using the half guard lever open, we're putting in the third guideline going up half an inch. But with this guard and lever position, because I want to keep a little bit more of the length, and of course there is a lot of hair that I'm cutting, as I'm going up that half an inch, I'm also kind of freehanding and flicking away from my head to create more of the shape that I'm going for. Otherwise, if I were to just follow the natural shape of my scalp going up my head, it wouldn't create the shape that I'm going for and I would look kind of weird. So I'm just going up, kind of flicking away and freehanding, going straight up 90 degrees off my head, still going up that half an inch so I don't create too much of a hard line and making it more difficult for me as I fade in for the next steps. So this is a more easier step, so all I'm doing now is just keeping the half guard on the clippers and closing the lever completely and just using the flick out motion, going from underneath the hard line and using the corners as well to just flick out the hard line, going up and down, back and forth, making sure I run the clippers through that hard line as many times as I need to ensure that the hard line disappears. Now for the next guideline, I'm going to be using the number 1 guard lever open, and as I said before, I'm still going to be going up about half an inch, but now with the 1 guard, you'll notice I'm doing a lot more freehanding as I'm going up my head, because again, I really want to avoid putting in some serious hard lines, which make it a little bit more difficult for me to continue on with the self haircut. So to make my life easier, I'm freehanding, and of course this takes practice. It takes utilizing the mirrors appropriately, it's having good lighting. All of these things add to a solid foundation of creating a good self haircut. Now, like I said, freehanding is probably the best way to go. And then when you get toward the ear by the sides of your head, I like to use my corners because the hair kind of tends, because it's longer, it just flows toward the back anyway. So really all I'm doing here is just using the corners and removing about 1/2 inch. But because I need to blend in a little bit better toward the top of my head, I have to use that freehanding motion and then use the shape of the clippers going 90 degrees straight up and just letting those longer hairs fall into the clipper blades as I'm moving up my head at 90 degrees. Now going in with the 1.5 guard lever open, I'm going up still freehanding at a 90-degree angle straight up and off my head to create the shape that I'm going for. Remember, this is a high taper mullet, so I'm really trying to stretch out the guidelines as much as I can and make the transition from having a lot of skin on the sides of my head to blend into that really dark hair toward the top. So in order to do that, I have to stretch out the guidelines, and freehanding is one of the best ways to do that while simultaneously making it easier for me later on in the self haircut by not having to get rid of so many hard lines and just adding extra steps to the self haircut. And if you've got relatively long hair on the top of your head as well, it might be a good idea to use duck clips to section off the top from the sides and back so you don't accidentally make any mistakes and use the clippers and cut that longer hair on top, which of course you might not want to cut. So duck clips are always a good option to protect your hair as you're cutting with the clippers. Now moving on to probably my favorite part of every single self haircut, and that's using my thinning shears over comb to blend in the sides to the longer length on top of my head. Now a lot of people think thinning shears is an advanced thing to use. It's really not. I'm telling you, it's such an easy skill set to master using thinning shears, and I think the best part has to be that thinning shears only cut around 20% of the hair that you cut in between the blades. So it's not like using normal scissors where it cuts 100% of the hair. Thinning shears only cut about 20%, so they're theoretically safety scissors, and they're so amazing at blending in hair. And I'm just telling you, if you don't have them, you should probably invest in them because you can probably get a nice pair for $7 to $10 on Amazon. But going in with thinning shears, the key is to make sure you're going up slowly with the comb as you cut with the thinning shears going up your head. If you've ever felt stuck removing hard lines within the fade, this is probably one of the best techniques that you can use to get rid of a hard line. It's something I discovered one day, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just flip the thinning shears in reverse and just see what happens if I just cut at the hard lines. Lo and behold, it actually ended up working really well, and this is the technique I've been using for probably about a year now, and it's always done a phenomenal job of getting rid of any of those stubborn hard lines. Now I'm going in with my scissors and comb and cutting off about 1/2 inch of hair off the top of my head. So currently I'm just going in on these sides, and of course before I even started cutting my hair, I wet the length on top. Because I've got thick, coarse and wavy hair, I have to wet my hair down to the roots in order for the hair strands to straighten out, so that I know when I'm cutting, every hair that's getting cut is being cut accurately and to the exact length that it's going to be after it dries. So first, going in with my hair cutting scissors, of course these are stainless steel, you guys can get them off Amazon for a nice scissor kit for $15 to $20. Stainless steel, amazing scissors, I've had them for years. And then just going in from the sides, blending in the part line area first, all around my head, and then gradually working from the sides toward the center of my head, and just using each guideline to cut across my head, doing horizontal sections and then vertical sections as well. And one of the best tips that I can give you is to think of the top of your head as a giant grid, like grid paper from math class, and just make sure that each little box in that hair grid on top of your head is cut to the exact length that you're going for. So section it off in grids. Now to add the finishing touches for my self haircut, I'm gonna give myself a nice lineup, starting of course with my hair cutting scissors to clean up my forehead. Again, you don't have to use scissors, but for me, it's a safer, more peaceful way for me to know that I'm not gonna cut any of that longer hair in the front of my head by my fringe. So it's just like a safety cushion using my hair cutting scissors instead of a trimmer. Now, for the vertical bars, for the C cup around my eyebrows next to my eyes, I'm going in with my trimmers. Of course, these trimmers have a T-blade, so if your trimmers do not have a T-blade, I highly recommend you get a pair that do have a T-blade. It's basically the trimmers have a blade that is shaped like the capital letter T, and all it does is expand the surface area that the blades can cut in, making it easier to give yourself lineups. So then once you finish the vertical bars, the C cup around your eyes, go towards the sides by your ears, use the corners of the T-blade and just follow the natural contour of your hairline, and then gradually go down your neck, following straight down that line, stamping at the line, press down with the trimmers directly at the line, and then drag away from the natural line, and then go around both sides of your head doing this. Again, if you need to, just pull the hair toward the center of your head with your hand and just be patient, be careful. Use both of the mirrors to make sure that you're making them even on both sides. And a really important tip I can give you is to use your fingers to hold as close to the trimmer blades as humanly possible, because that's going to allow you the most precision and accuracy as you're giving yourself a lineup. And if you feel like you've learned something throughout this video, make sure you leave a like, share this video with a friend, and click on the subscribe button to never miss a brand new self-haircut tutorial just like this one. This is my take on a high taper mullet self-haircut. Let me know in the comments below if you learned a new tip that'll help you level up your own self-haircut skills. And remember, subscribe to my channel and check out this video for more self-haircut tips and tricks.